Hey y'all, so here's another book update. I'm sorry if I'm at this point repeating myself a little bit. I've done a lot of these now and I don't always rewatch them and remember what I've said. So let's just recap the week. Yeah, it's probably going on week 3, I think, with the artificial lights for the photos, and I've gotten the hang of it a little more. I have kind of an unusual setup because I'm not using a softbox, which a lot of tutorials on YouTube mainly are using softboxes to achieve their natural light with various moods. You don't see a whole lot of people just using the light with a reflector, which is like the cone shaped thing that I put on the end of my light, and then I have a scrim, like a very large scrim. Yeah, so I kind of had to figure out why the light wasn't really what I wanted. And so anyway, I got that down, did some research, used kind of like blogs and stuff. I found some information on some blogs that were pretty sweet. I'm thankful that those things are out there and people write their thoughts about these kinds of things and post it on the internet. So I don't know how I'd figure this out otherwise. So thank you. And yeah, so the light's been getting to be closer to what I'm imagining, so I'm happy with that. And the recipe I did this week, I went really slow. I did only 2 recipes. One of them was actually a retest. I was trying to shoot it like as a process shot. It's a sauce. Oh my goodness, it just escaped my brain. Bordelaise. Bordelaise sauce, which is like a red wine reduction sauce with the stock in there that's made with a demi-glace. So a very reduced stock that you blend with the red wine that gets reduced, and it's very rich and very good, but really nice with a tender cut of beef or lamb. Yeah, so I was trying to shoot that. Wasn't really happy with the pictures, but I think my mind was more on the recipe test. I made some improvements with that. It's a pretty in-depth sauce if you make it like the way it's made in restaurants, which I think I made it once or twice in a restaurant I worked on. It's a pretty involved sauce, and to make it the way that I learned in culinary school is pretty involved. So anyway, I love that sauce, but I came up with like a home cook's shortcut version, and it's just as good. The method is really clever, and I hope you will look for that in the book. And the other thing I tested was actually something I'd never made before. So I of course love dumplings in soup, so when I was thinking about the recipes, I really thought about my favorite versions of those soups, and I went with well, one of the ones I went with, unfortunately I did not go with chicken and dumpling soup because I already have regular classic chicken soup in there, and to be fair, I don't love the dumplings that are in the soup. So yeah, I'm not gonna put something in the book that I don't love. So anyway, I have a few different things in there, but I did test, sorry, I'm like getting hot. I'm at the car wash. Need to get some air. I did choose to go with wonton soup, which is such like this staple thing. Like, who hasn't heard of wonton soup? At the Chinese takeout, you either love it, get it all the time, or it's like something that's just there and you're like, meh. But it's so good. I mean, I know I say this all the time. When you make it the traditional way, and obviously wonton soup is a staple of like American Chinese food, especially from takeout. I don't know for sure if it's a lot different than the way it would be made in China, obviously, but I'm going off of the version that we are familiar with in America, which is from the Chinese takeout. So just a simple broth with the dumpling in there, the wonton, sorry. And yeah, so I tested this one, and again, I'm just in awe of these foods that are so simple. The flavors are so simple, but it's just so lovely and delicious when done right. And in doing this soup, I talked to a few people about it, just like family and stuff, and they say they always love the dumplings that are in wonton soup. Why am I calling them dumplings? Woo, been a long day. They love the wontons, that they'll usually eat those, and they kind of leave the broth behind because it's either bland or they're honestly like, I don't understand what that is. Like, how did they even make that? Is it just a bouillon cube in water? Like, what is it? So when I made this, I wanted to make the wonton. Obviously I made it with traditional ingredients, but I wanted it to be, when you eat it, it's like a little bit of a flavor bomb. So it's intensely flavored. It's very balanced. So it has like some Shaoxing wine in it for a little acidity. It has oyster sauce, which gives so much umami. Oh my goodness, I love oyster sauce. And a little bit of honey or sugar just to give a little sweetness to balance. And it has pork and shrimp for the meat. And yeah, you want to use like a pork shoulder that you chop yourself, because you'll get a little bit of a different texture than if you buy pre-ground pork that's typically ground through a machine. It gets very pulverized and pasty. So hand chopping it, you'll get a kind of springier texture in your wonton after it's done. And shrimp with that is traditional. And so yeah, it's like a flavor bomb. And then the broth, it should just be this like sturdy thing that's there, so grounding and yummy, as like the backdrop to not just like when you take a bite of that wonton, you're getting that like yummy, well-seasoned broth in that bite, and it's just like a nice texture to get like the soupiness in there. But I wanted it to be like a sturdy flavor, and I guess I hadn't thought about it, but when I was researching, it's like, oh yeah, it's made with like what would be like the Chinese equivalent to the mirepoix. So the basic aromatics that would be in a Chinese master stock are garlic, ginger, and scallions. And as soon as I started just cooking it, like infusing the aromatics into the broth, it smelled like a Chinese restaurant. Like it just, those aromas are just so quintessentially like, ooh, yummy Chinese, you know? It was just so delicious smelling. I knew it was going to be so good. Yeah, so you infuse those aromatics for a short time. They don't take long, and you don't want to overdo it either. You just want that perfect, 30 minutes, and then strain it, and then season it with salt and a little soy sauce. And then you poach the wontons and then add them with very hot broth over the top, and just with some scallions, and it is so good. I know I say this all the time. I'm just in awe, like I really am, of having, when you have broth on hand, you can whip up wonton soup. When you have broth on hand, you can whip up these sauces. The bone broth making process is simple. Not time consuming, but a lot of passive cooking time. And making it in larger quantities is encouraged, because it's the same amount of work if you're going to make a batch with 5 pounds of bones versus 10, 15 pounds. It is the same labor. Maybe the pot is a little heavier at the end, but there's ways to strain the broth where you're not going to have to pick it up, and you can do it safely. Don't be intimidated by large batches. The only thing you need is a large pot, or use 2 pots. I encourage 1 bigger pot because it's going to take up less space, it's less dishes, and you don't have to monitor 2 pots, obviously, while it's cooking. So I just highly encourage making big batches. Don't be intimidated. Don't. Take it from me. I'm lazy. I'm a lazy home cook. I mean, this book has made me not lazy for the moment, but I cooked for a living for a long time, and I didn't want to cook at home. And yeah, so I get that. It's like, you don't always want to be in the kitchen forever, but I just feel like, well, I don't feel like I have the proof now because I've been making this stuff for so long for this book. And before, when I thought I'd have my broth business, I was testing the method to infinity. And when you have broth in the freezer, you have access to quick, easy meals that are so nourishing. They're so satisfying. And I really truly believe that having this type of food in your diet, like, you're not sipping bone broth for breakfast because it's a health thing. It's like, no, just forget it. I mean, I like doing that sometimes, especially if I'm not feeling well or have a fever or something like that. I will lean on it in that medicinal way. But having the stock in the freezer, it's homemade, it's probably concentrated because you did it properly. Most broth at the store is going to be watered down big time. I mean, I don't even know what that stuff is anymore. It's just not replaceable. And I mean, it's not a replacement for anything. Anyway, you know I'm gonna get revved up about this. This is my life's work at the moment. This is what the book is. It's based around making stocks. And I just firmly believe that having that stash in the freezer is going to change your life. I mean, for a lot of these recipes, for the braises, for the sauces, for the comfort foods, you're not using a lot of broth. But don't think of it as like, I need to consume 3 cups of bone broth in a day. Like, it's homemade and you're putting it into a meal, a 1/4 cup, a 1/2 cup, whatever the recipe is calling for. If it's a soup, it's usually a little more. But there are tons of recipes in there that are not calling for a lot of broth, and just, you've made this from scratch. It's so nutrient rich, it's so healing, and it makes the meal so satisfying. Like, when you eat food that's made this way, with the bone broth, with the stock, the broth, whatever you want to call it, or whichever method you choose, just let it be my method. You are going to feel satisfied to the point of your cravings go away. I really feel like people have cravings of certain kinds because their body knows, their taste buds know, I need this nutrient, I need this full spectrum of nutrition, minerals, amino acids, the collagen, you know, you need that stuff. And it needs to be properly made. I'm not going to say don't take collagen powders. You know, I think there's a place for all that stuff, but there's just something about the alchemy of making this yourself, having this in your house. I'm telling you, look at that Coke right there. Look at that Coke. I couldn't even finish it. I love Coke. I mean, who doesn't? It's a sugary, yummy drink. I have one every now and then, but I don't feel like I need to stop drinking Coke because it's having some bad effect on my body. I mean, I just don't feel that way. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole purist conversation and all of this crazy health stuff happening and how people eat really dogmatically nowadays. I'm not going to get into that, and I'm not going to point fingers. People are on their own journeys, but I just know what I've seen, and we have been forced to consume a lot of broth and so many meals made with broth. And the tough cuts of meat on the bone, you know, 3-4 times a week, four solid days a week. That's what we eat. I don't know. It just gives you what you need. Those cravings subside and you feel good. You feel balanced. I think balanced is the best word. you feel balanced. Your palate feels balanced. Your body feels balanced. So, yeah, that's my spiel. That's all for now, friends. Bye-bye.